Good morning, good people. Listen, I got to tell you something today, and I need you to hear me. It's time to stop wasting your time and start focusing on you. Yeah, I said it. Stop worrying about what they doing. Stop watching everybody else's life like it's your favorite TV show. Stop scrolling. Stop comparing. Stop sitting around talking about what somebody else got. Focus on you. Everybody wants success, but most people spend more time watching other people succeed than working on their own dreams. It's crazy when you think about it. People will sit for hours scrolling through social media, watching somebody else's highlight reel, and then wonder why their own life isn't moving forward. They know every detail of someone else's story, but they haven't written a single page of their own. The truth is, the more time you spend watching, the less time you spend doing. The more energy you give to other people's lives, the less energy you have to put into building your own. A lot of people don't even realize how much time they waste. They start their day by checking their phone, looking at what everybody else is doing, and by the time they look up, hours have passed. Instead of working on themselves, they get caught up in other people's business. They watch celebrities, influencers, friends, and even people they don't like just to see what's going on in their lives. They focus on the moves other people are making instead of making moves for themselves. It's a distraction, and distractions are expensive. The problem is, watching is easy. Watching doesn't require effort. Watching doesn't require discipline. Working on yourself, though, that takes commitment. That takes sacrifice. That takes shutting out the noise, turning off the distractions, and putting in the work even when nobody is watching. Most people would rather sit back and observe because it's comfortable. It doesn't force them to deal with their own shortcomings. It doesn't challenge them to be better. But the truth is, nobody ever changed their life by watching somebody else live theirs. You don't grow by sitting on the sidelines. You don't build anything of value by studying someone else's blueprint without ever picking up a tool. It's easy to admire success from a distance. But what separates successful people from everybody else is that they don't just watch, they work. They see something they want and they go after it. They don't spend their time checking up on people. They spend their time checking off goals. There's a difference between inspiration and distraction. It's okay to look at others for motivation, but if you're spending more time consuming than creating, you're stuck. If you're spending more time watching than working, you're falling behind. You have to catch yourself when you start giving more energy to other people's lives than your own. When you know more about someone else's progress than your own, you have to stop feeding into things that don't serve your purpose. People waste years waiting for the right time to start because they're too busy looking at what everybody else is doing. They compare themselves, and comparison is one of the biggest killers of progress. They feel like they're not good enough, not ready, not in the right position. But the truth is, the only thing standing in their way is their own mindset. They've convinced themselves that watching other people is somehow preparing them for their own success, but in reality, it's just keeping them stuck. Some people will say they don't have time to work on themselves, but that's not true. They have time, they just don't use it right. They say they don't have the energy, but they have plenty of energy for gossip, for social media, for meaningless conversations. They say they don't know where to start, but they've spent hours researching everybody else's journey instead of taking the first step on their own. The real issue isn't time, it's focus. When you stop watching and start working, everything changes. You stop caring about things that don't matter. You stop worrying about what everybody else is doing. You stop looking for validation and start building your own confidence. You start seeing results, and results create momentum. The more you invest in yourself, the more you grow. The more you grow, the more opportunities come your way. But none of that happens until you make a decision to stop being a spectator in your own life. Everything in life follows one simple rule. Whatever you focus on, you give power to. Energy is like currency. You only have so much of it every single day. And where you spend it determines what grows in your life. The problem is most people are spending their energy in all the wrong places. They pour their time, thoughts, and emotions into things that don't serve them, then wonder why they're stuck in the same place. They wake up every day feeling drained, uninspired, and frustrated, but they don't realize it's because they're feeding the wrong thing. Negativity is expensive. Worry is expensive. Drama is expensive. Every time you give your attention to something that doesn't add value to your life, you're making a bad investment. You're spending energy that you'll never get back. Imagine trying to fill a bucket with water, but there's a hole in the bottom. No matter how much you pour in, it just keeps leaking out. That's what happens when you focus on things that don't matter. You keep trying to move forward, but your energy is constantly being drained by things that have nothing to do with your growth. People spend hours every day stressing over situations they can't control, arguing with people who don't matter, and worrying about things that may never even happen. They let small distractions pull them away from their goals, and before they know it, days, weeks, and years have passed with no real progress. The truth is, your energy is the most valuable resource you have, and if you don't protect it, you'll never be able to create the life you want. It's easy to say you want success, happiness, and peace, but are you putting your energy into the things that actually create those results? Are you investing in learning, growing, and building? Or are you wasting time scrolling through social media, caught up in gossip, and stressing over what other people think? Most people don't fail because they're not capable. They fail because they're too distracted. They let their energy get pulled in 100 different directions instead of locking in on what really matters. Think about how many times you started something important only to get sidetracked by something small. You had a plan to work on your goals, but then you got caught up in a conversation that didn't matter. You were ready to take the next step, but then doubt crept in, and you started focusing on the fear instead of the opportunity. Every time that happens, you lose momentum. You slow yourself down. You give power to things that don't deserve it. The most successful people in the world understand that energy is everything. They don't waste time worrying about things they can't control. They don't get caught up in unnecessary drama. They don't let fear hold them back. Instead, they focus on what they can do, where they can improve, and how they can keep moving forward. They make sure that every ounce of energy they spend is pushing them closer to their goals. There's always going to be distractions. There's always going to be noise. But you have to decide what deserves your attention and what doesn't. Every day you make choices that determine your future. You decide whether you're feeding your dreams or feeding your doubts. You decide whether you're investing in progress or wasting time on things that don't matter. It's not about how much energy you have, it's about where you put it. When you truly start to understand this, everything changes. You stop engaging in conversations that drain you. You stop letting negativity take up space in your mind. You stop entertaining things that pull you away from your vision. You become intentional with your time, your thoughts, and your actions. And when that happens, you start to see real results. Everybody has the same 24 hours in a day, But the difference between successful people and those who stay stuck is how they use that time. Time is the most valuable resource you have, yet so many people waste it like they have an unlimited supply. They wake up with no real plan, letting the day control them instead of taking control of their day. They move through life reacting instead of creating. Then they wonder why they aren't getting anywhere. The truth is, how you use your 24 hours determines everything about your future. Most people don't realize just how much time they throw away every single day. They spend hours scrolling through social media, watching TV, caught up in conversations that don't add value to their lives. They waste time overthinking, worrying about things that don't matter, and procrastinating on things that do. They complain about not having enough time to chase their dreams, but somehow they always have time for distractions. It's not that they don't have time, it's that they don't prioritize what actually matters. Too many people are waiting for the perfect time to start something. They say they'll do it tomorrow, next week, or next year, but time doesn't wait. While they're waiting, someone else is working. While they're making excuses, someone else is making moves. The opportunity they're waiting for will pass them by because they were too busy standing still. The reality is, there is no perfect time. The only time you have is right now, and what you do with it is up to you. Some people will say they're too busy to work on themselves, but the truth is, everybody makes time for what's important to them. If something matters, you find a way. If it doesn't, you find an excuse. People will spend hours watching their favorite shows, hanging out with friends, or scrolling through nonsense online, but when it comes to building their future, suddenly they have no time. That's not a time problem, that's a priority problem. Success isn't about working harder, it's about working smarter. It's about using the hours you do have in the most productive way possible. You don't need to be busy all day long, but you do need to be intentional. You need to cut out the things that don't serve you and replace them with habits that do. You need to stop letting small distractions steal big opportunities. You need to recognize where you're wasting time and start making adjustments. People always say they'll start tomorrow, but the problem with tomorrow is that it never comes. Tomorrow turns into next week turns into next year, and before they know it, years have passed and they're still in the same place, wishing they had started sooner. The biggest regret most people have in life isn't failing, it's never trying. It's looking back and realizing they let time slip through their fingers because they were too afraid, too distracted, or too comfortable. The way you spend your time reflects what you truly value. If you say you want success, but you spend your free time doing things that don't move you forward, then success isn't really a priority for you. If you say you want to improve your life, but you make no effort to change your habits, then you're not serious about growth. Actions speak louder than words, and how you use your time says more about your future than anything else. Every single person has the power to change their life, but that change starts with how they manage their time. Time is either working for you or against you. It's either being used to build something great or being wasted on things that don't matter. It's not about how much time you have. It's about what you do with the time you've been given. Too many people spend their lives worried about what everyone else is doing instead of focusing on their own path. They get caught up in comparisons, opinions, and distractions that have nothing to do with where they're trying to go. They waste energy checking on other people, keeping up with trends, and trying to fit into a world that isn't even paying attention to them. They allow themselves to be pulled in 100 different directions, and in the process, they lose sight of their own vision. The truth is, nothing will slow you down more than worrying about somebody else's journey. Everybody has their own timeline, their own struggles, and their own path to walk. But too many people forget that. They see someone else winning and start doubting themselves. They start feeling like they're behind, like they're not doing enough, like maybe they should be doing what everybody else is doing. But success doesn't come from copying someone else's blueprint. It comes from staying true to your own. The people who succeed in life aren't the ones who follow the crowd. They're the ones who lock in, mind their own business, and focus on building something real. They don't waste time comparing themselves to others because they understand that their only competition is the person they were yesterday. They don't get distracted by what other people are doing because they're too busy working on their own goals. They know that as long as they keep moving forward, their time will come. One of the biggest mistakes people make is letting outside voices control their decisions. They let other people's opinions dictate how they live their lives. They seek validation from people who aren't even doing anything themselves. They get so caught up in what others might think that they end up playing small, holding back, and never fully stepping into their potential. But the reality is, nobody else is living your life. Nobody else is walking in your shoes. So why let them have a say in what you do? When you spend too much time worrying about other people, you lose time that could be spent improving yourself. You lose energy that could be used to build your dream. You lose focus that could be pushing you towards success. Every minute you spend looking at someone else's progress is a minute you're taking away from your own. Every time you doubt yourself because of what someone else is doing, you slow yourself down. Every time you let outside noise distract you, you fall further behind on your own journey. The most successful people understand the power of focus. They understand that growth comes from discipline, not from watching what others are doing. They understand that success is a result of consistency, not comparison. They don't waste time on jealousy, doubt, or distractions. They don't try to keep up with anyone else. They set their own pace, run their own race, and let their results speak for themselves. It's easy to get caught up in the illusion of other people's success. Social media makes it seem like everybody else is ahead, like everybody else is winning, like you're the only one struggling. But what you see online is just the highlight reel. You don't see the failures, the setbacks, the late nights, and the sacrifices. You don't see the real story behind the success. So instead of focusing on somebody else's chapter 20 when you're on chapter 2, focus on writing your own story. People who waste time in other people's business never get anywhere. They spend so much time talking about others that they forget to work on themselves. They get so consumed with keeping up that they never stop to ask where they're actually going. They let outside influences shape their decisions instead of listening to their own intuition. But at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is what you do with your own life. If you want to go far, you have to cut out the noise. You have to stop checking on what everybody else is doing. You have to stop seeking approval from people who don't matter. You have to stop worrying about where you are compared to someone else. The only thing that should concern you is whether you're better today than you were yesterday. Whether you're putting in the work, whether you're moving forward, because when you focus on your own path, everything else falls into place. People waste so much time waiting for the perfect moment to start. They tell themselves they need to be more prepared. They need more resources. They need to feel more confident. They convince themselves that someday everything will line up just right, and that's when they'll finally take action. But the truth is, there is no perfect time. There will always be a reason to wait, always an excuse to delay, always something that makes you feel like you're not ready. But while you're waiting, opportunities are passing you by. Success, doesn't come to the person who hesitates. It comes to the person who moves. The person who takes action even when they don't feel 100% ready. The people who achieve their goals aren't the ones who sit around planning forever. They're the ones who start, adjust, and learn along the way. They don't wait for everything to be perfect because they know perfection is an illusion. They understand that movement creates momentum, and once you get moving, things start to fall into place. The biggest killer of dreams is hesitation. It's the voice in your head that tells you to wait just a little longer. It's the fear that makes you second guess yourself. It's the doubt that makes you question whether you're good enough, smart enough, or capable enough. But the only way to know if you're ready is to start. You don't gain confidence by sitting on the sidelines. You gain confidence by stepping into the game, taking risks, and proving to yourself that you can handle whatever comes your way. A lot of people don't even realize how much time they've wasted waiting for the right time. They keep putting things off, thinking they'll get around to it eventually, but eventually never comes. One day turns into 1 year, and before they know it, they're looking back wondering why they never made a move. Regret doesn't come from trying and failing. It comes from never trying at all. It comes from knowing you had a chance but let it slip away because you were too afraid to take action. People get stuck because they think they need to have all the answers before they begin. But the truth is, nobody ever has all the answers in the beginning. The most successful people in the world didn't start with everything figured out. They started with what they had and figured out the rest along the way. They weren't afraid to make mistakes because they knew mistakes were part of the process. They weren't afraid to start small because they knew starting small was better than not starting at all. Every day you spend waiting is a day you could have spent learning. Every moment you hesitate is a moment you could have used to build, grow, and improve. Success isn't about being the smartest, the most talented, or the most experienced. It's about being the person who takes action. It's about being the person who sees an opportunity and grabs it instead of waiting for another one to come along. It's about being willing to take the first step, even when you don't know exactly where the path will lead. The truth is, you will never feel completely ready. There will always be uncertainty, always be challenges, always be things you don't know. But if you keep waiting for the perfect conditions, you'll never do anything. If you keep waiting to feel fearless, you'll never take risks. The people who achieve great things in life aren't the ones who never feel fear. They're the ones who act despite it. They understand that fear doesn't mean stop, it means go. It means you're stepping outside your comfort zone, and that's exactly where growth happens. Time moves whether you take action or not. The weeks, months, and years will pass no matter what you do. The question is, will you look back and see progress, or will you look back and see wasted time? Will you be further along, or will you still be standing in the same place telling yourself that someday you'll start? The only way to change your life is to take action now. Not tomorrow, not next week, not next year, right now. Now, because the sooner you start, the sooner you'll see results. One of the biggest mistakes people make is seeking approval from others. They want validation before they take action. They want permission before they go after what they want. They care too much about what people think, and that fear of judgment holds them back. But the truth is, no matter what you do, people will always have opinions. Some will support you, some will doubt you, and some will criticize you no matter what. If you spend your life trying to please everybody, you'll never get anywhere. You can't let other people's opinions dictate your future. Too many people hold themselves back because they're worried about what their friends, family, or even strangers might say. They don't chase their dreams because they're afraid of being judged. They don't step out of their comfort zone because they don't want to be laughed at. But the reality is, most people aren't thinking about you as much as you think they are. Everyone is too busy dealing with their own lives to sit around analyzing yours. The people who judge you aren't doing more than you. The people who criticize you aren't the ones out there taking risks and building something. The loudest opinions usually come from the people who are standing still while you're trying to move forward. If you let their words get to you, you're giving them power over your life. You're letting people who don't even have their own lives figured out tell you how to live yours. I think that doesn't make sense. If you want to succeed, you have to get comfortable with people not understanding you. You have to be okay with people doubting you. You have to learn to move in silence and let your results do the talking. People might not believe in you at first, but that's not your problem. Your job is to believe in yourself, to stay focused on your vision, and to prove them wrong through your actions. The moment you stop looking for approval, you free yourself to go after what you truly want. The most successful people in the world didn't get there by asking for permission. They didn't wait for everyone to agree with their decisions. They made bold moves, took risks, and trusted themselves even when nobody else did. They understood that not everyone would understand their journey, and they were okay with that. They didn't let the fear of judgment stop them from becoming who they were meant to be. People will talk whether you succeed or fail. If you do nothing with your life, they'll have something to say about it. If you go after success, they'll still have something to say. Either way, opinions are unavoidable, so you might as well do what makes you happy. You might as well chase your goals, live on your own terms, and let people say whatever they want. At the end of the day, their opinions don't pay your bills, don't create your success, and don't determine your future. Only you can do that. Too many people are living for others instead of living for themselves. They make choices based on what will make them look good rather than what will make them fulfilled. They follow paths that don't excite them just because it's what's expected of them. They hold themselves back because they don't want to disappoint anyone. But in trying to please everyone else, they end up disappointing themselves. They wake up one day realizing they built a life that doesn't even feel like their own. You have to ask yourself, whose approval are you really seeking, and why does it matter? If you make every decision based on what others think, you'll never be free. You'll always be chasing validation instead of chasing purpose. You'll always be looking for external confirmation instead of trusting your own instincts. The moment you stop worrying about what people think, you take back control of your life. People will always have something to say, but that doesn't mean you have to listen. The only voice that truly matters is your own. The only approval you need is yours. The only opinion that should shape your decisions is the one that comes from within. Because at the end of the day, you're the one who has to live with the choices you make. You're the one who has to wake up every day and face the life you've built. So make sure it's a life that makes you proud, not one that was built to impress others.